everyone. Hope you guys like this yantra. It is the yantra of Matangi. I drew this under a clip of Eisenstein's documentary film Viva que Mexico. He was one of the first, Sergei Eisenstein was one of the first filmmakers in film history. Wow. And this film almost didn't get released because he was such a person worried with his legacy that he couldn't really figure out what to make of Mexico. It was kind of sponsored by the politics of the time. And looking back, we really do see how he understood the tension of nature and civilization in that country. I've also visited. I have Mexican money here. So yeah, the eagle and then the state, the patriarchy. There's also the artist, Frida. Frida also really embodies the energy of Matangi, I think. But yeah, here's a more contemporary representation of a Latin woman. At this point, she's already a mom. And if you pay attention, she also has red ornaments, which is characteristic of Matangi. And then there's nature stuff on the vase, and then there's fur, animal fur. Animal fur. Okay, let us start. I will say the mantra. Om Hreem Kleem Om Matange Pet Swaha. Okay, I'm treating this relatively serious because I also play an instrument. Okay, origin myths. The first myth dealing with Matangi's origin is found in the Shakti Samgama Tantra and concerns the appearance of Uchishta Matangini, one of Matangi's most common forms. Once upon a time, Vishnu and Lakshmi went to visit Shiva and Parvati. Vishnu and Lakshmi gave Shiva and Parvati fine foods, and some pieces dropped to the ground. From these remnants arose a maiden endowed with fair qualities. She asked for leftover food, Uchishta. The four deities offered her their leftovers as prasada, food made sacred by having been tasted by deities. Shiva then said to the attractive maiden, "Those who repeat your mantra and worship you, their activities will be fruitful. They will be able to control their enemies and obtain the objects of their desires." From then on, this maiden became known as Uchishta Matangini. She is the bestower of all boons. The second version of Matangi's origin is found in the Pranatoshini Tantra. Once upon a time, Parvati was seated on Shiva's lap. She said to him that he always gave her anything she wanted, and now she had a desire to return to her father's home for a visit. Would he consent to her visiting her father in Himalaya? She asked. Shiva was not happy about granting her this wish, but eventually complied, saying that if she did not come back in a few days, he would go there himself to ask for her return. Parvati's mother sent a crane to carry Parvati back to their family home. When she did not return for some days, Shiva disguised himself as an ornament maker and went to Himalaya's house. He sold shell ornaments to Parvati and then, seeking to test her faithfulness, asked that she have sex with him as his payment. Parvati was outraged at the merchant's request and was ready to curse him But then she discerned with her yogic intuition that the ornament vendor was really her husband Shiva. Concealing her knowledge of his true identity, she replied, "Yes, fine, I agree, but not just now." Sometime later, Parvati disguised herself as a huntress and went to Shiva's home when he was preparing to do evening prayer. She danced there near Manas Lake. She wore red clothes and her body was lean, her eyes wide and her breasts large. Admiring her, Shiva asked, "Who are you?" She replied, "I am the daughter of a Chandala. I have come here to do penance." Then Shiva said, "I am the one who gives fruits to those who do penance." Saying this, he took her hand, kissed her, and prepared to make love to her. While they made love, Shiva himself was changed into a Chandala. At this point, he recognized the Chandala woman as his wife Parvati. After they had made love, Parvati asked Shiva for a boon, which he granted. Her request was this: "As you, Shiva, made love to me in the form of a Chandalini, Chandala woman, this form will last forever and will be known as Uchishta Chandalini. Only after performing suitable worship to this form will you, Shiva, be worshipped and your worship be made fruitful." The third myth that deals with Matangi's origin is from the Swatantra Tantra. Once upon a time, Matanga undertook austerities in order to gain the power to subdue all creatures. He persisted in his ascetic exercises for thousands of years until finally, in a burst of bright light, the goddess Tripura Sundari appeared before him. She emitted brilliant rays from her eyes, and the goddess Kali emerged. Kali then took on a greenish complexion and assumed the form of Raja Matangini. With the help of this goddess, Matanga was able to realize his desire to control all creatures. A fourth story concerning the creation of Matangi, told to me by an informant in Varanasi, is associated with a temple dedicated to Kauri Bai, a form of Matangi located in a low caste area of Varanasi. According to this myth, Kauri Bai was Shiva's sister. She was particularly fastidious and was preoccupied with purity and pollution. She was annoyed with Shiva, who had many habits that she considered disgusting, such as spending time in the cremation ground, imbibing intoxicants, and associating with ghosts and goblins. He was completely inconsiderate of her attempts to keep their house pure and would often track ashes from the cremation ground into her freshly cleaned house. After Shiva married Parvati, Parvati made polite overtures to Kauribai, inviting her to visit them. Kauribai, however, refused all these friendly gestures, complaining bitterly to Parvati about Shiva's disgusting habits. Finally, like a good wife, Parvati took the umbrage at the abuses being leveled at her husband and cursed Shiva's sister to be reborn in an untouchable community and to spend her entire life there. And so she was reborn in the untouchable area of Varanasi and in such polluted circumstances found herself very unhappy. She went to Shiva, the Lord of Varanasi, who gave her the boon that people on pilgrimage to Varanasi would have to worship at her shrine before their journey could be considered complete. In these otherwise dissimilar myths, several important themes are emphasized that seem central to Matangi's character. The first myth stresses Matangi's association with leftover food, which is normally considered highly polluting. Indeed, she herself arises or emerges from Shiva and Parvati's table scraps. And the first thing she asks for is sustenance in the form of leftover food, uchishta. Not only does Matangi request uchishta in this story, But texts describing her worship specify that devotees should offer her uchishta with their hands and mouths stained with uchishta. That is, worshippers should be in a state of pollution, having eaten and not washed. This is a dramatic reversal of the usual protocols for the worship of Hindu deities. Normally, devotees are careful to offer particularly pure food or food that the deity likes. After the deity has eaten, consumed its spiritual essence, the food is returned to the worshiper. This leftover food is referred to as prasada grace. The ritual give and take in this case emphasizes the inferior position of the devotee who serves the deity and accepts the deity's leftover food as something to be cherished. In the case of Matangi, worshippers present her with their own highly polluted leftover food and are themselves in a state of pollution while doing so. In one case, a devotee offers Uchishta Maktangini, a piece of cloth stained with menstrual blood, in order to win the boon of being able to attract someone. The blood is usually regarded in texts as polluting, and women during that period are forbidden to enter temples or serve the deities. In the case of Matangi, these taboos are disregarded and are flaunted. Worship manuals also specify that no fasting is required before worshiping Matangi, although it is often desirable in the case of other deities that vows of any type are not necessary in seeking her blessings. Devotees agree to perform some pious deed, such as fasting or making a pilgrimage, in return for a deity's favor, and that worshippers need not observe any rituals of purification prior to her worship. Similarly, anyone may recite her mantra, even those who are not initiated or who would not be considered qualified. In a society such as that of high caste Hindus, obsession with purity and pollution dominates almost every facet of daily life. Keeping track of what is clean and what is unclean, who is clean and who is not, and under what circumstances, and how clean one is oneself at any given time becomes oppressive. For such purity minded individuals, polluted persons and objects may be regarded with fear, bordering on awe, as having the power to completely devastate one and make one unfit for normal social life. For some Hindus, it is exhilarating to intensely embrace the forbidden, to come to terms with it once and for all, and in doing so, overcome its hold over them. Uchishta Matangini, as the embodiment of the polluted, is the goddess by means of whom one can come directly to terms with pollution. As such, she is both powerful and liberating. Okay, we are on page 217. Thank you so much for watching, and please support the publication by Dr. David Kinsley. And see you guys next time.